So
Okay.
I'm going to hit record. So the first question we've got is what should I do? What should I do when my weight loss has plateaued? So I think this is quite a common one because I think there's a few different angles we can look at this. Theoretically, when you're on a weight loss journey, we know it's not necessarily linear. But as you are losing your weight, you do get to a point where it starts to plateau. And that's actually a really good sign because it means that your body has started to adapt to the workouts that you're doing and it's actually getting fitter and stronger and healthier. So the actual plateau itself is pretty good. But when we get into the plateau, it essentially means that you need to change an element of your training, whether that be the workouts you're doing, the weights you're using, the intensity you're going at, or whether that be your diet, the food that you're eating, something needs to change. So when you get to the point where your weight loss is starting to plateau, we need to change something. Normally, I would say it's if you've lost weight, the first thing that I would probably look at amending is your diet, is your food, is your calories, how many calories you are eating. Because that's also normally when it needs to be updated. If you've lost however many kilos, say like 2, 3 kilos, it might just mean that your calories need to be amended to suit that. Then like that after that, we look at intensity, maybe increasing your weights, increasing your time under tension, so slowing down the reps, giving a few more pulses at the bottom. And that's a really good way of breaking a plateau too. So, but on the whole, plateaus are not a bad thing. Plateaus are a really good sign that you're making progress. So next one, holiday. I think I've spoken quite a lot about holiday over the last few weeks. Um, but it's the age old one of how do you stay on track for a holiday. So in my mind, you've got two angles. You either work really hard your way up to it and you see accept that you're going on holiday, you're going to loosen the reins a little bit, and you're just going to go in and you're going to enjoy yourself and not have to worry about it too much. So you've got that angle. And then if you're going to take that angle, you need to kind of remove the guilt side of it, remove the feeling of like you've fucked it, and just accept it and enjoy where you're at. Sometimes that can be quite hard and feel quite hard to get over, especially when you've been working so hard towards a goal. So if you want to stay on track, um, even just like a little bit, I would say going for like a 80-20 rule is like, or controlling the meals that you have control over, and then having like 20% of the fun stuff. So if you're going to, let's say, let's use you for an example, Vicky, if you're going to an all-inclusive, I think things like breakfast, it's so easy to be taken away from your goal. It's so easy to be influenced by different types of food that you wouldn't necessarily normally pick, especially when you look at things like breakfast. You have normally, you would have the option, you can have the option if you choose to be really, really healthy for breakfast on holiday because there's loads of fruit. There's normally like eggs and there'll be some form of protein as well, and normally Greek yogurt. But it's often the things like the plates of pastries or the cakes, and you think, oh, you're on holiday, you just have one. But we all know that it's so hard to just have one cake on a plate. And I think once you open the floodgates to kind of having one, you end up having a lot more. So it's a matter of having control over those meals where you can, and breakfast is normally an easier one out of the meals. And then sticking to things like fiber, your veggies, and also your protein as well. And then when it comes to lunch, if you're going to eat lunch, some people don't necessarily have lunch when they're on holiday because you get so full from breakfast, the heat and everything. You might have a few little bits and bobs. And then come to the evening, just fill your plate up with the like a quarter of the plate protein, half the plate fiber, another quarter for carbs. If you're not having carbs, fill the rest of the plate up with like a little bit of extra protein, and then a little bit like 1/3 protein, 2/3 fiber, and then like a thumb size of fat as well. It's just keeping that in mind. And then also, if you're drinking, make sure you're having plenty of water between your alcohol, and try and opt for low sugar, lower calorie options with alcohol if you're going to go for them. And I think it's a matter of asking yourself, do you really want to eat that? Like some things on holiday are so worth it. Like going out for a delicious meal, really enjoying what you're eating, like go for it, enjoy it. But if you start, and I know I was doing this yesterday, so when I've just got back from Madrid, I know I was doing this in the morning. I was like, do you know what? I don't even know if I'm actually wanting this for breakfast. Like, what did I have? Um I can't think off the top of my head now what it was. It was okay, there were churros at breakfast, and
Mm.
I was like, really wanted to have some, put some on my plate, had a bit of chocolate sauce, and I started eating it. And I was like, do you know what? This isn't actually as nice, anywhere near as nice as I thought it would be, because they were good ones. And
Mm.
so I had to keep telling myself, right, stop it, move it away. And I had to ask the lady to take the plate away from me because I know otherwise, if it's sitting in front of me, I have to have mindful how I just like will mindlessly eat it. So pick the things that are worth it. If you take a few bites of something, you're like, do you know what? Actually, that's not really worth it. Like, you don't have to finish it. I think it's trying to get out of that mindset of finishing everything because it's on your plate all the time. Trying to avoid the kids' leftover foods as well. When kids have ice creams, if they don't finish them, you don't have to finish them if you don't want to.
I've
But if
thrown
you,
so many ice creams in the bin this year.
it's crazy, isn't it? Do you know, I was sitting there today with me and my cousin popped over to my mum's house, and the girls all had ice creams, and Trixie had like one bite of a fab,
Mm.
then she had like one bite of a Magnum, and she didn't want the rest. I think when she's been a bit ill anyhow, she kind of doesn't really
Going
know
for
what she wants
stomach.
to eat. Yeah, and I ended up. So I ate the fab, and I was like, "This is where it all goes wrong." And I had to put the Magnum. I was like, "No, get rid of that." I just couldn't do it because otherwise you do end up, it's just through habit and not wanting things to be wasted. But if you can just get it out of your sight, move it away, because if it's out of sight, out of mind, 100%. So staying on track holiday, control the meals you can, keep your protein really high, keep your fiber really high, keep like lots of vegetables. Some places, some countries, it is really hard. Like, say, for you being in America, like the amount of like lack of vegetables and things, that could be really challenging. But if you ever have any doubt, ever have any questions, just drop me a message. But if you're going to like Corfu, loads of fish, loads of veg, loads of salads, we're focusing on that side of things. And then having puddings and alcohol if you want them, like, and enjoy it. Have it to enjoy, not to be like, oh, I wish I hadn't had that. Um, Next question. Why can my weight stay the same while my clothes are getting looser? So this is a really big one, and this goes back to throw the scales in the bin. I get asked this question quite frequently, and it's often people. I was actually speaking to a girl on the phone earlier today, and getting quite frustrated that her weight hadn't wasn't moving. She was doing all the stuff, she was doing all the actions, but she just didn't feel like her weight was moving on the scale. But she did recognize that her clothes are getting looser. So it's when it gets to that, it's typically your body is changing fat into muscle, and fat is denser than muscle. No, sorry, muscle is denser than fat. So you did I say the right way around? You're changing your fat for muscle, and your muscle is denser than fat. So a lot of the time, when the weight isn't changing on the scale, it doesn't matter. And I think this is one of the important things why I like to say go for like old clothes that used to fit you that you want to get back into. Use your measurements. Aim for sometimes like a clothing size that you a goal size that you want to get to, because ultimately the weight on the scale is just an overall measurement of mass. It doesn't measure how much muscle you've got, how much fat you've got, how much water you're holding on to. It doesn't account for all of those things. And I think your clothes, when they're getting looser, that's a clear sign that there is something good going on here. And you are starting to build that muscle and lose the fat. So clothes, I think, are a better way to measure yourself, along with your metrics around your waist and around your hips as well. So this is a hard one. Motivation, I know a lot of people at the moment are struggling with, and there's a lot of different elements that come into play for this one. So, how do I get my motivation back after doing this for months? So the thing with weight loss and building muscle is it's I feel like we're brought up in this era where there are so many quick fixes, and there was that slimming world, what was it? Slim fast diets that like my mum's kind of
Atkins and
Atkins, yeah, Atkins, Weight
there's
Watchers.
another
I
famous
still got some
one.
of them now. But like there was always doing these like permanently doing these videos in front of the TV and like the goal to be really skinny and they made it look so easy and there was just this instant right just start with Special K diet. Remember that? With the have two bowls of
Yeah,
Special K a day.
cabbage soup, I think my aunt
Yeah,
did.
yeah. And essentially, all that is doing is just forcing you into a calorie deficit. But the calorie deficit, when they're doing it, is just so low that it's not stable. So people's weight will drop and they will bounce back up again. And I think there's this whole, like, people having this mind ingrained into their mind that they need to lose weight and they're gonna lose weight really quickly. And so once they're not losing weight quickly, or if they have started seeing results, their motivation goes because they're like, hold up, this isn't as quick as I thought. Motivation is purely a mood. It's going to come and it's going to go. It's like being happy. You can't be happy all the time, right? I mean, even if you are, that's a bit weird. But it's like your mood, it's just going to come and it's going to go. So that's exactly the same with motivation. I think when we rely on motivation, it is not always going to be there. And that's when discipline and routine backs it up. So once we can build a routine when we are motivated, that really helps. And then once we've got that structure, we've got that routine, and we've got like your workout scheduled, and you can remember how good you feel after you're doing your workout, that is when the discipline side of things helps because you build momentum, makes you build momentum, and from momentum, often your motivation will come back. So when you've been doing the same thing for months, it can feel quite tiring. It can feel like you're a bit fed up. It can feel like you're getting a bit like bored of the same journey. But boredom is not always a bad thing. It's where growth happens. Like you need to sometimes push through that to get to the other side to build up again. Because you think like a fat loss journey isn't quick. Fine, people on Monjaro, they're losing lots of weight, but they're not just losing fat, they're losing muscle mass too. So that's like
Yeah.
that's a very different angle from these things. But if you're on a weight loss journey, once you've got to a goal you want to, then and you want to build more muscle, taking building muscle can take a really long time, and I mean years. Like it's not just a matter of you can, yes, you can build muscle in 12 weeks, but ultimately, if you want to build a dense amount of muscle, you've got to be doing it for years and years and years. It takes years to build that kind of muscle and that kind of style. So I think relying only on motivation, you've got to get more into the routine side of things, the discipline side of things, and making it part of your life and making it something that you enjoy as well, and trying to take away that idea of um like I've been doing it for months, I'm fed up, because just try and make it part of your life, part and parcel of who you are. Trying to maybe sometimes mix up the workouts, trying to mix up changing like the environment in the gym, maybe sometimes going with a friend, or just mixing things up a little bit when you can, if you do get to that stage. Like a holiday can be really helpful because it can give you that motivation and drive to work towards something, or even adding in like a goal that you want to achieve. So signing up to something like a high rocks, or signing up to a race, or signing up to a cycle, like having that something to look forward to gives you that motivation and something to work towards, and that can hugely help as well. Next one, body image. So why have I lost weight but still don't feel like I look different? This is a hard one, really, because it goes back to the weight thing. So weight is a number on a scale, and your weight can fluctuate so much. But if you still don't feel like you look different, there could be two things. One, it could be that you do look different, you just can't see it yourself. And that is when the before and after pictures come in so handy, because when you're looking at yourself in the mirror every single day, you're not going to notice the little increments of weight that are coming off you. But when you see the pictures of you before and after, and you can recognize all that hard work, then that is when you can really start to you really start to see how far you've come. And that's when, like, so the scales might have dropped down, but you can't necessarily see it. Your clothes might be fitting better, but you still can't necessarily see it. But the before and after pictures are so helpful. And also, when you're building muscle, you get to a point where you're like a lower in body fat, and you won't necessarily notice that you're building muscle, and you won't feel any different as such. You might feel a bit stronger, but you're not seeing like these muscles appearing as much as you thought you might. But then when you look back on pictures, you can start seeing that definition coming into different areas of your body. Like particularly, I noticed in a lot of women, it's their back. You can see when they're front arm, their back shape starts changing more as they start to lose weight, but they don't necessarily recognize these things. We do a lot of work on our back on the program, especially like because it's so good for your posture. It's so good for building muscle, and we don't see our back. We don't see what that looks like. So unless you're doing things like taking those photos, you can't recognize how far you've come. And also, like, if you're not tracking, if you don't remember what weights you started on, then it's also hard to see how far you've come and how far what you've achieved as well. Um, Weekends. What do I do when the weekend throws me off? Get back on track. Ideally, let's try not let the weekends throw us off and just try and stay on track where we can by planning. If we can plan ahead and plan like your Friday meals, your Saturday meals, and start thinking ahead of the game of how to stay on track over the weekend, then you don't get such a like a throw off effect. Yeah, if you might have a couple of things off plan, like a couple of meals off plan, or like a pastry or cake or something, then you don't feel so like, oh, I've completely come off plan. But if you do, like we'll always have weekends where things might not be as on track as we thought. But as soon as you come off track, recognize it and just come back on. Whether it's a matter of you go out for a blowout lunch and you're like, you know what, so I thought I was going to stay on track. I didn't. I'm a bit pissed off with myself. Just get back on track. Like the longer you leave it to get back on track, the harder it is, the longer down the road you'll go, and the harder it will be then to get back on track. So if you have one blowout weekend, just try your best to get back on track. So this weekend when I was away, I went in, accepted I was going to eat loads. I didn't want to hold back because I think sometimes when you're in a different country and you want to experience all the different foods and everything, then just go for it. And that's what I went with that mindset. So I didn't want to have any guilt attached to it. I just went and enjoyed it. But what I have done today is we got back at 11 o'clock last night. Over the weekend, I made sure I drank plenty of water throughout the weekend. Um, I tried where I could. So, like for breakfast, I was trying to be more mindful of those things that I was eating. So savoring, um, like trying to control the bits I could. And so when I went out, I had a little bit more flexibility. But then when I come home, keeping my steps high as well, when I come home, I was like, right, that's it. I've had a lovely time. Let's get back on track. So this morning, my main focuses were drinking water, getting plenty of water, having electrolyte, having the high protein breakfast to keep me fuller, get that protein back in because it can be hard to track when you're eating out a lot. It can be hard to track how much protein you're eating. Getting my steps in. I wasn't aiming for a massively high step count today because I know I had a lot of work to do sitting by a desk, but aiming still having a step count and still working towards that. So allocating 20 minutes on a treadmill to just sit, work. I was working and walking at the same time, like a walking pad thing. And then what was the other thing I did? So I had my protein, steps, water. The other thing I did was getting fibre in because I just didn't feel I had like enough vegetables over the weekend. So I had plenty of fruit today and also plenty of vegetables too. Hunger. What should I do when I'm really hungry? Eat. If you're really hungry, then it's your body essentially telling you to eat. But be mindful if your body is actually hungry or whether you're bored or whether you're thirsty. So I would say if you're feeling really hungry, first of all, have a drink of pint of water. Give it 10 minutes, see how you feel after. If you're still genuinely hungry after that, then there's something you need to be fueling your body in a slightly different way, or you need to be eating more. If you're fasting, it's a little bit different. You kind of do have to bash through that hunger feeling. I would normally top that out with like a black coffee, black tea, water or electrolyte. You do have to try normally go through that, especially when you're in the first stage of intermittent fasting, when you're getting your body used to it. But if you are genuinely hungry, eat. You don't need to hold out as such, but make sure instead of going to opt for snacky food, I would say get yourself a meal, have a proper meal, sit down, eat a proper meal, or bring your lunch forward, bring your dinner forward. Um, if you're going to have a snack, make it intentional, make it something like high protein, so some cooked chicken, maybe like sometimes as a snack I'll have a tin of tuna with some lettuce. I know it sounds probably a bit boring, but like some lettuce with some tuna on it, tuna mayo on it, and have that as an intentional snack, or egg, or like some eggs chopped on top of a slice of toast or a rice cracker, having it as an intentional snack. Don't think because I'm hungry, I'll just grab a packet of crisps. Eat to fuel your body. Knowledge. How do you decide which workouts and exercise go into the next block? Okay, this was someone asking about the program and how I know what I'm going to put next for you guys. So there are a few different elements that factor into this. The main driver is your goal, where you are looking to get to, where you want to go. The other thing is how you are currently doing, how you're progressing, what you like, what you don't like. So uh, it's a hard one because if you tell me you don't like burpees, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm not going to change and I'm going to take burpees out. But I might just be a little bit more mindful on how we can improve your burpees. So give you other exercises that might improve your burpees without you realizing that then might make you like them a little bit more. So it's all different factors and also how your body is reacting to things, whether or not you've got injuries, and also um, just to keep your mindset changing so you've got a bit more variation. So we stick to a block for about 5, 6 weeks generally, because that gives your body time to learn the exercises, time to push and progress, build that progressively overload those muscles, so your muscles grow. And by the end of that block, you should theoretically be able to lift a higher weight or higher amount of reps than at the start of the block as well. So so basically I decide based on multiple different elements, um, what you like, where you're at on your journey, and then from there I build it. So we try and work multiple muscle groups across the week. So making sure we've got areas of like lower body, so your quads, your glutes, hamstrings in there, and your calves. So you'll find that you get a lot of exercises repeated. So you'll always have a variation of a squat. You'll always have a variation of a deadlift. You'll always have a variation of working your biceps, your shoulders, your back, because we're progressively overloading those muscles. So we build, but different exercises work those muscles in slightly different ways. And you can also use different exercises to support the goal that you're looking to achieve. So, say, for example, if you want to improve running, things like, let's say, one-legged works, like lunges, jumping lunges, they really help with like your stride as you spring forward. So it's about bearing in mind what the goal is and how we can enhance the end result through the exercises that we do. Um, Next question, how do I stay motivated when the scales aren't moving? We kind of touched on this a little bit, but I still have a lot more weight to lose. So if the scales aren't moving, you've still got a lot of weight to lose. It depends how long the scales haven't moved for. It also depends on if you've got your if your metrics have moved, because like I said previously, a lot of the times your scale might not move, but you'll find that your metrics are moving, especially in that first like couple of months. First like month or so, it's quite common for the scales not to move, but you will find your metrics will probably be getting smaller. So if you haven't measured your metrics right from the beginning, it's really hard to gauge what your progress is. That's why I'm so intent on asking you for your weight, for your metrics, for your progress pictures, so we can target it from all angles. But if you are feeling a little bit deflated because the scales aren't moving, I would say get rid of those scales and go back onto your measurements, because there's a few different things. If your scales aren't genuinely aren't moving and your measurements aren't moving, your energy output is probably around the same, and you've got a lot of weight to lose. You're not in enough of a deficit, essentially. So something needs to be tweaked. You either need to be dropping your calories a little bit low, tracking your calories fully, because a lot of time we think we're tracking our calories, but we might be eating an additional 100, 200, 300 calories that are just like from picky bits or not recognizing, or alcohol. And then before we know it, we're actually in maintenance of calories, or sometimes we've tipped ourselves over into a surplus. So that would be my first port call. Are you definitely tracking your calories correctly? Because that is a key driver for our weight loss. And I think that if you are, then perhaps it's the intensity that needs to be increased, or perhaps it's the steps that need to be increased. And I think when it comes to the motivational side of things, the way we get your motivation moving from that perspective is by establishing why it's not moving, why the scales aren't moving, whether it's a matter of body composition, whether it's a matter of you being in a calorie maintenance or surplus that's causing it not to move, or whether they are actually moving, you've just not measured your metrics as well. So I think I've rallied through, I think it's like 10, 9 or 10 questions there. Hopefully that has answered some of your questions or has given you a little bit more information. Have you got any other questions that you want to ask, or anything else you want answered?
Um, no, I think you have covered all of the bases there. I think I'm in
Sure.
a unique position at the moment, aren't I? My scales haven't moved since
Mm,
Christmas, really.
yeah,
My measurements have slightly, but I have noticed body changes in terms of smaller clothes or bras and things like that. Um,
yeah,
so all I can say, it is part of my life now, and I think that we've talked about all the different reasons, but I think could be holding me back. Definitely, I think there's a sort of 200 calories in a day that need to go. I just I find that quite hard, but I
yeah.
am, yeah, anyway.
What I would say then, in that instance, if you can just increase your steps a little bit, perhaps try, like we were saying this week, like hop on the bike for a little bit, like say 15 minutes a few times a week. Now, obviously, before your holiday, just give it a bit more of a push going forward. But it's like tweaking different elements. If you don't want to cut your food lower, like see what other energy you can try and exert to take that higher slightly. I also
Mm.
think like with you as well, where the scales might not necessarily be moving, but we can clearly see like from things like your bra size going down, or areas like when you lose weight from your face, like things like that don't get measured as such. They
Like
don't
you
we
said, the
don't get
back,
measured.
even at the top of my back,
Yeah.
I caught sight the other day, and I was like, oh, it definitely looks like it's a bit more toned and it's better, So
Yeah, so it's all elements like that, and taking all of that into consideration. And as you do lose weight, the less weight you have to lose, the harder it is to
yeah.
lose that weight too. It comes off a lot slower.
Mhm.
But a lot of it will be down to just tweaking the food side of things, trying to increase, adding in that little element of cardio to kind of tip you over with the calories too. Um, but they have moved the last couple of weeks, haven't they?
Yeah, very
Yeah, so
slightly.
they
So
are starting to go
yeah.
again. But and again, like you say, it's that being more mindful of getting back on track with your fasting, or getting back on track with those extra few calories that slip away.
Mm.
But it can be a bit, you get a bit fed up with it. So that's why, like, say, after a holiday, we take you more onto maintenance for a while, give you a break from dieting
Mm.
as well, give you time to build more muscle, and then we'll stay on that phase for a while. And then you can, when you're ready to, go back into like cutting phase where you start losing more weight
Yeah.
again.
Okay.
But it's like getting your mindset out of
I
the
think as well, like sometimes you just need a holiday, don't you? I know that I can eat well on holiday because I think going in a
yeah,
buffet style, I've got loads of stuff to choose from that I know is healthy,
yeah,
and I've got people watching me. Well, they're
yeah,
not watching me, but you know what I mean. You feel like you've got people around you, so you're not going to keep going back
yeah.
for more.
I
And
feel like every time you go on holiday, you lose a couple of kilos, don't you?
yeah, I can. The stress of not looking after my house
No,
and
that's
being
it.
responsible. I'm
Exactly.
like,
Because that's the thing, isn't
woohoo.
it? It's not just like food and exercise that comes into it. There is an like the sleep,
Just
your
being
gut
relaxed.
health, your
Yeah.
stress levels. Like they are huge contributors in weight loss as well. So it's about understanding where you're at with those. That's why sometimes I ask you guys to gauge yourself like on a scale of like 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, where you feel you are along like your how aligned you are with your goals, or how many how well your sleep is doing, how what your stress
Yeah.
levels are like, because those are
Because it
huge.
makes sense your body just wants to hold steady.
Yeah,
When you if it thinks, oh my God,
just
she's
control
got
something I can.
food.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway, let's see.
Well, look, if you have any other questions or if you need anything, just
Yeah.
give me a shout.
Okay. All right, thanks, Ellie.
You're
Bye,
welcome. See you
Abby. See you.
later. See you,
Bye. Bye bye.
Abby.